Carl Jung discovered that you can perceive someone's true character by paying attention to just two things. Not their words, not their achievements, not even their actions when people are watching. Jung found that two specific psychological reveals expose who someone really is beneath their mask. And most individuals give away these secrets without realizing it. Picture this moment. You're sitting across from someone you thought you knew, a colleague, a friend, maybe even your partner. They seem genuine, trustworthy, put together, but something feels off. You can't put your finger on it, but your instincts are telling you there's more beneath the surface. Jung spent decades studying what he called the persona, the mask we all wear to hide our true selves. But he discovered that no matter how carefully someone constructs their image, these two psychological tells always slip through. And once you know what to look for, you'll never be fooled by a false persona again. These aren't complex psychological tests. They're simple observations that reveal the deepest truths about human nature. And by the end of this journey, you'll not only be able to read others like an open book, but you'll understand yourself in ways you never thought possible. But here's what makes Jung's discoveries so unsettling. These two reveals don't just expose other people's character, they force you to confront your own hidden nature. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And these two psychological windows will show you parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Most people go through life believing they can judge character through surface behaviors. They look for confidence, kindness, success, or charisma. But Jung understood that these are all part of what I call the performance layer, the carefully constructed image we present to the world. The real person lives beneath this performance. And Jung discovered that no matter how skilled someone becomes at managing their image, two specific psychological patterns will always reveal their authentic nature. These patterns operate outside conscious control, which is why they're so reliable. Jung wrote, "Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. But judgment based on surface appearances is almost always wrong. True character assessment requires looking deeper into the unconscious patterns that people can't fake or manipulate." What Jung found was that character reveals itself not in what people choose to show you, but in what they can't help but reveal. These two psychological signatures emerge whenever someone's guard is down, their mask slips, or they're under any kind of pressure. Jung's first character reveal is what I call shadow mapping. Discovering someone's true nature by observing who they judge most harshly. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This unconscious direction shows up most clearly in our judgments of others. When someone criticizes another person with unusual intensity, they're not just making an observation, they're projecting their own disowned traits onto that person. Jung discovered that what we hate most in others is often what we've buried deepest in ourselves. He called this projection, the unconscious process of seeing our own rejected qualities in other people. The stronger the emotional reaction, the closer you're getting to their shadow. Let me show you how this works. Meet David, a successful architect who prides himself on his integrity. At every office meeting, David complains about his colleague Marcus, calling him fake and manipulative. David's voice gets sharp when he talks about Marcus's charm with clients. His jaw tightens when Marcus gets praise. But here's what Jung would see. David's intense reaction to Marcus isn't about Marcus at all. It's about a part of David that he's rejected. Deep down, David wishes he could be more charming, more socially skilled. But he's buried this desire because he believes it would make him fake. Jung wrote, "We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses." David's condemnation of Marcus is actually self-oppression. He's rejecting a part of himself that could serve him well. This is why shadow mapping works so reliably. When someone judges others harshly, They're always telling you something about their own internal conflicts. The traits they criticize most are often the ones they've pushed into their unconscious. If you've ever caught yourself judging someone and realized it revealed something about you, comment, "I see my shadow in my judgments." But shadow projection isn't always negative. Jung discovered that we also project positive qualities we're afraid to claim. When someone consistently puts others on pedestals, calling them so talented or so confident, they're often projecting abilities they possess but don't acknowledge in themselves. The key is to watch for emotional intensity. When someone's reaction to another person is disproportionate, whether negative or positive, you're seeing their shadow in action. This reveals not just what they've rejected in themselves, but also what they secretly long to express. Jung's second character reveal is what I call mask maintenance. Observing how someone behaves when their carefully constructed image is threatened. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But most people spend enormous energy maintaining who they think they should be. This maintenance requires constant effort, and Jung discovered that when someone's persona is challenged, when their mask slips or their image is questioned, their authentic character emerges in that moment of vulnerability. Here's how to spot it. Watch what happens when someone faces unexpected criticism, when their competence is questioned, or when they're caught in a mistake. Do they become defensive? Do they attack back? Do they deflect blame? Or do they pause, reflect, and respond authentically? Let me illustrate with Sarah's story. Sarah is a marketing director known for her calm professionalism. She's built her career on being the unflappable one, the person who never loses her cool under pressure. But during a high-stakes client meeting, the client criticized her team's strategy, questioning Sarah's judgment. In that moment, Sarah's persona cracked. Her voice became sharp, her posture rigid. She interrupted the client, deflected blame to her team, and made subtle digs at the client's previous decisions. The calm professional disappeared, revealing someone defensive, insecure, and willing to sacrifice her team to protect her image. Jung would say this moment revealed Sarah's authentic character more than years of professional interaction. Under pressure, when her carefully maintained image was threatened, her true patterns emerged. Jung wrote, "The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering." Sarah's unwillingness to experience the discomfort of being criticized forced her into defensive patterns that revealed her character. But here's where this gets powerful for character assessment. These persona breakdowns don't just happen during major crises. They occur in small moments throughout everyday interactions. When someone's phone dies and they can't check social media, when they're kept waiting longer than expected, when someone doesn't laugh at their joke. Watch for micro-expressions, tone changes, body language shifts. These tiny moments when the mask slips reveal more about someone's character than hours of casual conversation. Jung understood that authentic character isn't what someone chooses to show you when they're prepared. It's what emerges when they're unprepared, unguarded, or under pressure. The most integrated people, those Jung would call individuated, show consistency between their persona and their authentic responses. Their public image and private reactions align because they've done the work of accepting themselves completely. Now that you understand Jung's two character reveals, let's explore why they work so reliably from a psychological perspective. Jung spent his career studying what he called the architecture of the psyche, how the mind organizes itself to navigate reality while protecting the ego. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But before transformation can occur, we must understand the chemical composition of each personality, their authentic character beneath the social performance. The reason shadow projection reveals character so accurately is because our unconscious mind can't distinguish between self and other when it comes to rejected material. When David criticizes Marcus for being fake, his unconscious is actually trying to process his own relationship with authenticity versus social performance. Jung discovered that the unconscious operates through what I call projection mapping. It casts internal conflicts onto external people to make them visible and workable. The intensity of someone's judgment always corresponds to the intensity of their internal struggle with that particular trait. This is why people who are genuinely secure in an area rarely judge others harshly for weaknesses in that same area. Someone who's truly confident doesn't waste energy criticizing others' insecurities. Someone who's authentically successful doesn't feel threatened by others' ambitions. Jung wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." When someone consistently judges others, they're revealing their own inner loneliness, their disconnection from rejected parts of themselves. The second reveal, persona breakdown, works because maintaining a false image requires enormous psychological energy. Every moment spent pretending to be someone we're not drains our cognitive and emotional reserves. When pressure is applied, the ego no longer has the energy to maintain the deception, and the true self breaks through. Think of it like a dam holding back a river. Under normal conditions, the dam stands strong, presenting a calm and controlled surface. But when the floodwaters of crisis, criticism, or stress rise, any cracks in the foundation are instantly exposed. This is why small moments are so telling. They act as micro-stressors that test the integrity of the persona. A person who genuinely possesses a trait doesn't need to exert energy to maintain it. It flows naturally. But someone who is merely performing a trait must constantly monitor and adjust their behavior, creating a psychological tension that is bound to snap under the right conditions. By learning to observe these two key dynamics, shadow mapping and persona breakdowns, you gain a profound toolkit for understanding the human mind. You begin to look past the carefully curated speeches, the strategic social media posts, and the polished professional achievements. Instead, you tune into the subtle, unfiltered frequencies of the unconscious mind. This deeper level of perception changes how you navigate relationships, allowing you to build deeper connections based on reality rather than illusion. More importantly, it provides a mirror for your own psyche. When you catch yourself judging someone with unexpected intensity, or when you feel your own mask slipping during a difficult moment, you are granted a rare opportunity for growth. You can choose to look away and rebuild the mask, or you can face the shadow, integrate the hidden pieces, and move closer to true self-acceptance. Character, as Jung demonstrated, is not a static mask we wear for the world, but a dynamic, living balance between what we show and what we hide. Jung called this ego maintenance, and he understood that this intricate system becomes remarkably fragile under stress. When an individual's persona is actively threatened, their primitive defense mechanisms immediately activate. These specific defenses reveal their core psychological patterns. Do they attack, indicating an underlying aggression? Do they withdraw, showcasing deep avoidance patterns? Do they deflect, revealing hidden dishonesty tendencies? Or do they integrate, demonstrating true psychological maturity? Jung wrote, "A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them." The unique way someone handles criticism or a direct challenge shows whether they have integrated their difficult emotions or are still completely controlled by them. Notice how someone's true character regularly emerges under heavy pressure. Stress reveals ultimate truth. These internal patterns are so reliable because they operate far below conscious awareness. Someone can easily control their words, manage their facial expressions, and carefully craft their responses when they are fully prepared. But when their psychological defenses are activated unexpectedly, authentic patterns emerge. Jung understood that true character assessment isn't about catching people in lies or exposing their hidden flaws. It's about seeing the whole person, their internal struggles, their defenses, their unique growth areas, and their authentic strengths. This fundamental understanding allows for genuine human connection rather than surface-level interaction. Beyond Jung's two primary reveals, there is a third distinct pattern that emerges when you actively combine them. What I call the integration test involves observing how someone handles their own shadow material when it is directly reflected back to them. This serves as the ultimate character assessment because it shows whether someone is capable of genuine growth or trapped in unconscious loops. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Here is exactly how the integration test works in real life. When you notice someone projecting their shadow onto others around them, gently reflect it back to them, not accusingly, but with open curiosity. You might say, "I noticed you seem really bothered by people who show off. Have you ever felt like you wanted to show off but held yourself back?" Watch closely what happens next. This exact moment reveals more about their character than months of casual observation, because it tests their immediate relationship with their own unconscious material. Let me show you this dynamic in action through two entirely different responses. Remember David, who constantly judges Marcus for being fake. When asked gently if he ever wishes he could be more socially skilled, David might respond in one of two distinct ways. Consider response 1, which represents the classic defensive pattern. "Are you saying I'm fake like Marcus? That's ridiculous. I'm completely authentic, unlike him. I don't need to manipulate people to get ahead in this company." This sharp response shows David is deeply defended against his own shadow. His character remains rigid, his growth potential severely limited by his inability to acknowledge his own inner complexity. Now consider response 2, which represents the integrative pattern. "Actually, yeah, sometimes I do wish I was better with people. I admire Marcus's social skills, even though his specific approach bothers me. Maybe I'm just jealous of something I wish I had." This enlightened response shows David can hold a paradox, being bothered by something externally while also recognizing his own relationship to it. Jung wrote, "The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed." People who can successfully integrate feedback about their shadow show this exact quality. They become significantly stronger through self-awareness rather than weaker. The integration test reveals 3 distinct character types that Jung identified during his research. The unconscious type remains completely unaware of their projections and becomes highly defensive when confronted with them. They completely lack self-reflection and are often deeply surprised by others' negative reactions to them. The aware but defended type recognizes their projections purely intellectually, but cannot seem to integrate them emotionally. They might easily say, "I know I judge people," but they cannot explore why or what it truly reveals about them. The integrated type can observe their projections with genuine curiosity, learn from them, and use them as valuable information about their own growth areas. Jung called these unique individuals conscious, not perfect, but entirely awake to their own psychological patterns. If you have learned to see your judgments as information about yourself, your projections can truly become your teachers. This fundamental integration capacity accurately predicts how someone will handle conflict, personal growth, criticism, and true intimacy in relationships. People who cannot integrate their shadow material will repeat the same destructive patterns indefinitely, constantly blaming external circumstances for their deep internal struggles. But those who can work with their projections consciously become what Jung called individuated, authentic, self-aware, and fully capable of genuine connection with others. Now that you thoroughly understand Jung's character assessment framework, let's explore how to apply it in real-world situations. But first, a crucial warning must be issued. Jung wrote, "Where love reigns, there is no will to power, and where the will to power is paramount, love is lacking." Use these deep insights to understand and connect, never to manipulate or control others. Character assessment should always serve compassion, not domination. Here is how to apply shadow mapping in different personal contexts. In romantic relationships, listen closely to how your partner talks about their exes, their co-workers, or people they generally dislike. Are they consistently bothered by selfish people? This might easily reveal their own internal struggle with healthy self-advocacy. Do they frequently criticize needy people? They might be denying their own deep need for connection, but you must use this information to understand and support them, not to attack them during arguments. If you notice your partner projecting, you might say, "It sounds like that person's neediness really bothers you. Do you ever feel like you can't express your own needs in our relationship?" This approach creates an open space for much deeper intimacy. In professional settings, closely observe how colleagues handle direct feedback, criticism, or challenges to their ideas. Do they immediately become defensive, deflect blame, or attack the messenger? Or do they pause, consider the merits, and respond thoughtfully? This reveals their true capacity for growth, collaboration, and leadership under pressure. Jung wrote, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases." Understanding someone's distinct character patterns helps you communicate in ways that directly fit their unique psychological structure. For parenting, these insights are incredibly invaluable. When your teenager constantly complains that their friends are fake or attention-seeking, help them explore what this reveals about their own struggles with authenticity and social belonging. This builds true self-awareness instead of blind judgment. But remember, character assessment is always a two-way mirror. Jung beautifully wrote, "Everyone you meet knows something you don't know but need to know. Learn from them." Every single judgment you make, every intense reaction you have to someone else's behavior, reveals something specific about your own psychological patterns. Here is a practical exercise for the next week. Keep a dedicated shadow journal. When someone irritates you intensely, write down exactly what bothers you about them. Then ask yourself honestly, where might this specific trait exist in me? What am I deeply afraid of about this quality? Don't judge yourself for what you find hidden there. Jung wrote, "The acceptance of oneself is the essence of the whole moral problem and the epitome of a whole outlook on life." Self-acceptance is not self-indulgence. It is the absolute foundation of true psychological health. Also, practice this integration test on yourself regularly. When someone gives you feedback that triggers immediate defensiveness, intentionally pause before responding. Ask yourself, what if there is truth in this? What might I learn about myself? Jung understood that character development is not about becoming perfect. It is entirely about becoming conscious. The ultimate goal isn't to eliminate your shadow, but to work with it consciously rather than being controlled by it unconsciously. To expand on this psychological framework, consider how these unconscious patterns manifest in daily choices. The career paths we choose, the hobbies we pursue, and even the art we enjoy are heavily influenced by the shadow and the persona. A person who completely denies their aggressive shadow might be drawn to highly competitive sports or violent media as a safe, unconscious outlet. Conversely, an individual who over-identifies with an intellectual persona might dismiss emotional art forms because it threatens their carefully constructed image of cold rationality. By analyzing these subtle preferences, you can uncover the hidden currents of the psyche. Jung believed that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a much better understanding of ourselves. This realization turns every daily interaction into a potential moment of self-discovery. transforming standard social friction into psychological fuel. Furthermore, the process of individuation requires us to continually dismantle the persona when it no longer serves our psychological growth. As we move through different stages of life, the masks we wore in youth, such as the rebellious outsider or the people-pleasing overachiever, often become restrictive prisons. Recognizing that these masks are merely functional tools rather than our true identity is a liberating breakthrough. When we stop exhausting our energy on mask maintenance, that psychological capital is freed up for genuine self-actualization. We stop demanding perfection from ourselves and others, replacing harsh judgment with radical curiosity. This shift doesn't make life free of conflict, but it alters how we experience conflict. Instead of viewing challenges as external threats to our ego, we see them as necessary mirrors, reflecting the exact parts of our unconscious mind that are finally ready to be brought into the light of conscious awareness.